Hello, everyone. Welcome to the contributors meeting. I'm going to be your host today. I'm Leo, and starting off with triage and discussions. This week we had Dan and Ryan. Ren or Diane, um, anything you want to mention about last week's issues?
Yeah, I had two. We had an issue that was a Red Hat CVE that was incorrectly reported as Argo CD. So that sent up a bunch of red flags for people, thinking that there was a vulnerability in the project. But that has been corrected and updated in the vulnerability database, so it should no longer be an issue. So if you were seeing that, shouldn't be an issue anymore. And then there was also some confusion about some vulnerabilities found in Ubuntu 2404, which is the base image. And we actually update packages when we do the build. So it's actually not really an issue once again. So that does open up, we're going to open up an issue to start discussing a move to either distroless or Wolfie or some other base image, just because it helps prevent, those kinds of issues. It does come with some um, debugging overhead, as those images don't have a lot of the tools that people are used to using for debugging. So anyway, that discussion will come up, and we'll revisit that probably in a week or two. Jan was going to put something together. Um, so the other thing is there was an issue created for another look at Helm lookup support. Um, this one, it's kind of it's been something that we've been moving towards because we have impersonation as a feature that was added to enhance security, and Helm lookup functionality always kind of required impersonation to be part of the equation in order to be able to do it in a secure way. Um, I actually think impersonation is still an alpha feature, needs some more maturity. And so this is something that I think we will not be taking on in the short term or midterm. Um, it does require kind of some re-architecting to make it work in a good, secure way. Um, so so yeah, well, I wanted to see if anybody in the call had strong feelings about like Helm lookup support. Now's the time to get it in. We do have a workaround where you can mount secrets directly into a CMP, uh, into the CMP plugins and run it that way. So that could be like worth documenting. I did like a proof of concept on that like 2 years ago. Um, as soon as because there was a limitation in Helm that didn't allow lookups during the templating, but now that's been a feature for a year and a half, 2 years. So it is possible to do through a CMP plugin. At that point, you take on all of the security implications yourself. So if you feel strongly about this proposal, if it's something that you want to see or you definitely don't want to see, then definitely participate in the issue.
I'll definitely participate in the issue because I share Michael's opinion on this. Yeah, it opens a can of worm. And if the if the use case is not really strong, I don't think we should bring that issue inside our City code base. So we always have the possibility to um, users always have the possibility to create their own CMPs if they want to enable specific Helm features. But yeah, I'll reply to this as well. Thanks, Dan, for bringing it in. Anything else for triage and discussion?
Nope.
Not on the list. Okay. Ryan, are you in the call? No, I don't think you are. Okay. Okay, thank you, Dan. Now we need to select who's going to be doing triage next week. Any volunteers in the call for primary and secondary?
I can go for secondary.
Thank you, Nitish. Anyone else? can be primary next week, and we are done with triage and discussions. Okay, moving on to the next stage, where we discuss the topics the community brought up. So the one I added here first is the one brought up by Nebojsa. Are you in the call? Doesn't seem like he is. But it felt like an interesting proposal. I added a label to start discussing this proposal. Basically, I was curious to hear their use case. They're suggesting to add a new method in the cluster secret to filter namespaces using namespace selector, like label selectors, which would avoid having to specify namespace one by one. But I really wanted to hear their specific use cases. At first, it looks a good feature to have, but again, I'll just leave the proposal open. Try to get more feedback from the community. Any opinions about this? Anyone in the call?
I don't know, usually with best practices, it seems like a lot of applications go to their own namespaces. So we'll probably end up with cluster. If you have 100 applications, you probably have, I don't know, tens of namespaces. So I don't know, you probably need to specify a lot of those in this configuration. So maybe it can make sense to actually specify exclude namespaces or something like this. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, one of their argument here is that if we have some sort of a label selector at the cluster level configuration, it would avoid
I see.
users to go and update this over and over again, right? It would be more a GitOps friendly approach.
Yeah, actually, yeah, makes sense. I think so. You just put labels when you want, wherever you
Right.
want, and then you just have one selector. Okay, yeah, I mean, looks reasonable.
It's one idea. I mean, obviously, devil is in the details, so we need to understand what are the implications in doing so, and if adding this in the cluster secret is the best place. But again, it sounded appealing at first to me, so I was just curious.
Honestly, I don't know why it should be in a secret, but not a config map, because it doesn't seem like a secret data really.
No, it's the cluster secret.
Yeah,
It's the cluster secret. It's not about making the configuration secret. It's when you add a cluster, that's done as a secret. And then all of the config options for that cluster then would be contained in that secret. So the only part of this spec that is new is the namespace selector. So the namespace's restriction is already in the cluster secret.
I have to add, just because I don't know if projects have a similar restriction that's duplicated in the cluster secret, and if it makes more sense to move it to a project or not.
Right. Yeah. Because the cluster secret really dictates how the Argo CD cluster cache is created. So that's how this really drives the logic inside the controller.
Isn't there a similar namespace selector in the project as well, though? Or am I mistaken?
Yes, there is on the project. So on the project, the goal is to constrain from Argo perspective, so that an application which is using the project and is trying to deploy to a namespace which is not specified on the project will not be allowed to do so. So this is more Argo-oriented approach. I was actually surprised. I didn't know that there was a namespace. There was an option to specify namespaces on the cluster. So I was asking myself whether the incentive behind it is RBAC one or performance related one. I was not sure.
Yeah, I think this was more performance oriented, if I remember correctly, because it restricts the namespaces Argo CD is going to be monitoring to build up the cluster cache.
Which was
so that's why I'm
not PR.
Sorry?
Is performance.
Right.
I
Okay,
think it
that
actually,
makes sense.
I think it actually makes, I think it actually makes sense to have
Yeah,
it as a selector in a Kubernetes native way.
Mhm.
I agree. The namespace, like, I like the namespace selector idea as just an general idea. I don't love that our clusters are represented as secrets and not CRDs, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a different one.
That's a different one. Yeah, it's a good reason
Agree.
there's it's a good reason that there's secret to Kubernetes encrypts those. But yeah. Anyways, just
Right.
it's a little awkward to see a namespace selector inside of a secret. So
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
Cool. All right. So I'll leave the issue. Anyone else want to comment on this? No? Okay, cool. So I'll
The only question I actually had, because I actually quite liked this, the only question I had is what should be the behavior if both namespaces and selectors are passed? And the
Yeah.
proposed behavior is that it would just ignore the namespace list, and that would be
Mhm.
overridden. And
think
I
you
thought, well,
or
maybe it
them.
should just do both, but
Yeah,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think you do an or. I don't see why not.
yeah, make it an or. So if one
Yeah,
is
basically. So
there's
you
an
do
over
both. Basically, you use both of them.
use both. Okay. So
Yeah,
if
same
I
thing.
have namespaces passed, those would be added
To
regardless of the
the
namespace selector, and then the namespace selector will additionally
Correct.
select more
Additionally,
namespaces.
select whatever. Yeah, because maybe
Yeah.
you want another random namespace that doesn't have the label because it's you do selectors based off a business unit and team transfers, and you have this one weird namespace that you want to add that doesn't deserve the label. I don't know. It just adds more flexibility, right?
Yeah. In
One
the
more thing
long
though,
term, if we want to deprecate namespaces entirely in favor of a selector, then I
Yeah.
could see the argument to leave it as it is in the proposal.
yeah.
Right.
One thing I would suggest, if we do or, I think we should instead create a new field which has two nested fields, one for list of namespaces, another for selector. Otherwise, it's just like namespaces and namespace selector, they kind of both seem conflicting for the same thing. And like, because I can see where this proposal is coming from. It's like override, like basically namespace selector, it tells, hey, here's how you select namespace, and it defines this way to do stuff. So I would kind of expect, looking at configuration this way, I would kind of expect that selector is like the only thing responsible for this if it's specified. I don't know, maybe I'm like just being like too pedantic or something, but I feel like if we just have like a section for namespaces, it would make it more clear that, hey, we have multiple ways to specify namespaces.
Yeah.
Right. Which brings the topic Zach was mentioning, because this is a secret and this is a key, right? And what comes after the key is a string. So you cannot repurpose the namespace and
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
Okay.
The-
Yeah, probably it's like what I mentioned is like not a big deal. Yeah.
we might
Okay.
want to consider doing match expressions as well as match labels, but I can comment on the proposal.
Yeah, that would be
2185.
nice just to make it so you could just select by name, formulation, whatever.
Yeah, just as the standard Kubernetes label selector has a match expression and a match labels field underneath it, and it should just I would do both of those.
Yeah, good point.
all
I don't
right.
know. Actually, to be honest, now that I look deeper into it, I don't know. I really dislike multi-line YAMLs. I think that maybe I don't know. Maybe really this would be a case to support cluster as a CRD.
CRDs. CRDs.
Well,
That-
no. Let's have mercy on the
Yeah.
author of proposal. Let's not like expand the scope like 10x.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's
I
fair.
do-
Cool.
I-
Yes. Okay, moving on. All right, thanks everybody for your comments on this. Moving on to the next one. Alan Francis, I see you in the call. I'm gonna click the link. So basically, you're asking us for PR reviews.
Yeah, so Michael Crenshaw provided some comments on this. So I wanted to discuss this with the community and see what others feel about it. Yeah, so
Yes,
this is
Nitish.
basically about, yeah. Yeah, Nitish.
Yeah, I actually want to mention that I think we have already one of the PRs raised for the similar issue. So I'm
Correct.
just wondering why
Yeah.
do we have a couple of PRs for the same issue?
Uh, yeah. So basically, the person who was working on it was a student who worked, and he's working for a different company now. So I pinged him, and he was not able to make those changes suggested. So that's the reason I created a new PR with the improvements.
So can we close that previous PR and we should focus on this one for the
Sure,
reviews?
sure. Yeah, I'll check with him again, and then I'll close that, so that we can track it in one place.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is basically about supporting changed files. Like if there is a monorepo and there are huge number of changes, we want to use the manifest path annotation to limit the changes that we are interested in. So Bitbucket doesn't support changed files in the webhooks. So every time when there is a monorepo, it's not possible to use this annotation. So when we looked at it, like Bitbucket provided another API, which is diffset, which will give you the changed file list, but we have to make another call. So when there is a webhook request coming towards Argo CD, Argo CD has to make a call to get the changed file list. So that's what we are trying in this approach. But there are some security concerns which Michael Crenshaw raised about SSL attacks and things like that. So yeah, that's why I wanted to discuss this change here. If there are better ways to do it, and if folks have opinions on this.
I'm not sure I understand what the concerns are from just reading the PR description. Is it concerned with the code or
Yeah,
is
can you scroll down a bit? I think there is Crenshaw's comment with respect to SSRF attack. Uh, yeah, that one.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, if this is behind a feature flag and we can release it, and because we don't know the performance that could have, and it could affect everyone's webhook if they use Bitbucket. But if it's behind a feature flag, and yeah, I don't see any problem with this.
The comment's true though that you'd want auth enabled for the webhook, which is fine.
Sorry,
Michael's
Zach, I
comment,
didn't.
Michael's comment, I think, should be implemented as well. Otherwise, people can basically just steal the data from that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I tried that approach, like webhook auth. There is this webhook secret that we have. So only if that is enabled, we are doing this callback. But yeah, I'm not sure like whether that is sufficient and whether that's what he meant. But
yeah.
I'm just
I think I'm pretty sure that's what he meant. And then to Alex's comment, like putting the whole feature itself in a feature flag might be good too.
okay. Yeah.
Okay, and then do you have any questions about how to proceed, or is it clear what is necessary to be done?
Yeah, I think I'll try the approach of using a feature flag and the authenticated webhook filtering. I think I'm already doing it. So I'll check with Michael whether that's sufficient. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Thank you. You have another one, or is the same?
I have another one related
Okay.
to impersonation.
Right. Can you provide
Yeah.
a brief description about this one?
Yeah, so basically, we added impersonation feature as an experimental feature with a feature flag, and there we control the application sync. So what happens is if you try to prune the resources, it goes via the sync path, and if there is no permission to delete a resource, then the resource stays there. So, but when you delete an application as an whole, it goes into a different path where there is no impersonation and it still allows the resources to be deleted. So this PR is to check whether the impersonation feature can be added to these application level deletes as well.
Yeah, personally, I don't fully understand the impersonation that you're referring to, and in which level that is going to be applied.
Is it for the like propagation? So when you delete and you propagate, delete, you want to use it to delete the resource and not the actual
Correct.
application, right?
Yeah. So when I delete the application, the underlying resources would also get deleted, right? I think it's the foreground cascade delete, right?
Mhm.
So there are scenarios where they want to avoid such deletions.
Okay.
So with the impersonation, you can reduce the I mean, like remove the delete permission for that particular service account, so that you can actually block them from deleting it. So even if the application gets deleted, the underlying resources will be still available. So
Isn't this like, I think you don't want that behavior. So if you delete and you want to propagate the delete and now you don't have permission, like it shouldn't delete the application. So I think this needs more, its proposal. Right? I think the delete itself needs more thought into it. Like, what do you happen if you don't have the permission?
yeah, it won't allow to delete the application as well. Yeah. So, but they can delete it without cascade, right? Cascade equal to false, they can do it.
Yeah, but if they delete it with cascading, it failed. The app maybe should be stuck in pending deletion because they're gonna leave. They won't know that they don't have the permission, and they're gonna leave resources in the actual cluster, so the user doesn't have any feedback, and it might be not what they want.
So basically, this proposal was discussed in the past, and you're taking the implementation part of it, right, Anand?
Yeah, so we have implemented what was discussed in the proposal. This is like an additional use case that we are trying. So for the sync operation, we are already supporting impersonation. For the application sync, you can use the impersonated service account and do that.
And this adds an additional feature on top of that proposal?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
This is an additional feature on top of it.
And this is to address an existing use case you're facing at your company?
Yes. So there is an ask to avoid resource deletion. So we thought like this approach could be a solution.
Okay, maybe my ask would be to enhance this, what is this? This is a pull request. Because you're saying you're referencing the proposal here, but the proposal is already implemented as far as I understand. It is not directly related with what we're trying to do here. So my ask would be to clarify the use case you're having, the problem you're facing, and why we need to to implement this PR. I think that's going to be easier for us to understand and follow up with PR reviews. Okay. All right. Anything else related to this one? Okay. Thank you, and moving on, Andrew. Server-side diff.
Yeah, I'll try to go through like the items at least first two pretty quickly. So this is an issue where essentially server-side diff sometimes is incorrect because of like removing webhook mutations. It's probably gonna take too long if we discuss it now. So I would just ask like somebody to like review. So there is a summary in the bottom. Like there is discussion on PR, and I think there is summary from like my discussion with Peter. And I think what is solution. So it's a pretty specific solution. So basically, like it's about how like managed fields are reported, how they're added, and some edge cases related to this. And then like we try to remove some fields, and we may remove like what we don't want to remove. And then we have like certain pretty specific additional loop we need to do and additional like post-processing. And I want to just ask somebody like Leo, maybe like you, and maybe whoever else is familiar with server-side diff to take a look and like review that this proposal makes sense. I think I got it. Like, and then like Peter also tried various ideas. I also put some ideas on the PR, and like, but most of those ideas shouldn't work or wouldn't work. But like, I think the last one seems like it's legit. Yeah.
You're basic. So because this issue is about a bug, right, in the current server-side diff logic
Yes.
when removing mutations from mutation webhooks.
Yes.
So
basically, it's
if
like
I'm
a
understanding correctly, what you're saying is that you're coming up with a new strategy to remove mutation webhook mutations
no,
different than what we're doing.
Enhance an existing one. It's about removing added fields, but we need to like exclude some more. Like it's about basically managed fields. They don't include everything we need. And so it's sometimes we get into tricky scenarios when, for example, you add environment and you add environment variable. So you added actually both. You added a section and you added the values to it. But
Right.
managed fields would only reference values. And environment section itself would be like left there. But we also want to remove it. But sometimes there is a case, for example, that you add two environment variables, one by managed thing, another one by webhook. And in this case, you don't want to remove end section. So
Right.
it's it's like so
it's a
basically
very, very tricky feature to implement, and I haven't come up with a
yeah. I think I covered both cases that like Peter has like discovered. So this is like first part is like what Peter commented when he did his test. So basically there are like if you look down below, there are like those like env and like protocol things which we actually want to like actually filter out. And here below I like like below is some like based on my comments on the PR is a solution, like how do we specifically like do another loop and have specific computation of additional field set we want to like remove from added fields. Yeah.
Okay. I'll take a look at this, Andrew. I'll put in my to-do list. Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
We can work. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to the next one. It's essentially like a PR review. No, it's like it's basically GitOps engine PR. Yeah, I think it's not functional just now. But yeah, sync wave display sync wave in this sync status has been like just ongoing for like several months. Just I think like person addressed the feedback from the PR, so I just wanted to like try to get this merged, and like so Lin Hao implemented this, and there is like a PR referenced. It's like. Yeah. So I just want to see if there's anything else left to actually merge it.
Display sync wave.
Yeah, so basically it's just like so now we just have a long list of stuff and like we can display sync wave. I think this video is a bit outdated. So there is not the selector, but the idea is like you show like additional column with a sync wave.
Okay, it's a UI change.
Yeah, I think like there's been some like review and feedback, some bugs. but there's been some update on the PR, and it seems like it hopefully is good.
Okay. Yeah, we would need someone maybe Keith, I don't know if you can take a look at this, but it's a UI change basically, and we would need someone with UI expertise to review and make sure we have a cohesive experience for users, and that's it. Okay.
Cool.
Yes.
I can look at the comments. Yeah.
Yeah, you're already
Yeah.
added as one of the reviewers. Cool. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. Yeah, and now a third item, and I guess it's I know we can probably move on to next items by the people after this. So a use case I have is I want to implement additional helper UI to do some operations using Argo CD endpoints. So I want to query Argo CD server, and for example, I want to say, hey, I want to edit this config map in a specific way. So for example, I want to query config map, modify it, and then tell Argo CD, hey, please update it. Or I want to take operation, for example, take some deployment, edit max replicas, and save it again. So this is just to for example, suppose there is some crisis ongoing and people need to upscale deployment. In Argo CD, they first need to find scaled object or HPA. They need to figure out what the service has and find it and edit it, go through a whole YAML, find the field and edit it. Or do the same thing using kubectl. But I want to have some tool which just make it very simple. So you say, hey, here's deployment, here's max replicas, and here I want to edit it and save it. And this tool would communicate with server using thing. And I want to figure out how to do Okta. So we use Okta for auth. So I wonder how this tool should auth with server.
So I don't know about auth, but this is basically calling the executing actions on an application that do predefine those predefined mutation on the resource. And then the auth is just like any other auth. If you implement a CLI, you need to do the pass-through SSO. So you want to, your server to impersonate the user, or you just use a service account and then implement another layer in the service you're building for your company.
I think it's more pass-through. So basically, user authenticates with Okta to this new tool, and then also user has permissions to access Argo CD. So I want this same user, same identity to be used for Argo CD access and operations.
I mean, you authenticate with a token, right? So as long as you have an Argo, your OIDC token, and you provide in the API, you're able to authenticate. Argo validate the token like any OIDC systems, and it will, if the token is valid, it will allow the user will be authenticated, and then authorization will happen based on what's configured in Argo.
Okay, cool. So it's basically about passing additional parameters which I should have after doing Okta auth.
Yeah, it's the bearer token. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Let's go to items by Guilherme. Sorry if I know if I pronounce it correctly. And then if you have more time, we can go over 2 of remaining items by me.
Yeah, Young, you're in the call.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so this issue directly about the API token. So when we generate a token for users, so when we want to generate a password for real users, we can do it declaratively by putting it in Argo CD secrets. But for the API tokens, it's not possible. The only way to generate an API token is to use the CLI.
Sorry, Liam. We can barely understand you. Your voice is way too loud. Can you maybe try to reduce the volume in your mic or something like that?
Or do you have another mic if you're using a laptop microphone? So maybe.
Yeah, it's really tough to follow you.
Is it better now?
Yeah,
Yep.
much better. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the USB port. So okay. Yeah. So it's about
Can you
API
start
tokens
over
for
because it was
yeah.
really chaotic.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you have two ways to authenticate on Argo CD. Either you use the user password, and for this you can do it declaratively. You can put the user in the config map and the password in Argo CD secret. But for the API token, it's not possible. The only way to do it is either do it via the CLI or through the REST API using an account that has the rights to do so. And so when you want to automate it, it's a bit hard to do because you have to basically you have to do a kind of job to automate this kind of action by either calling the CLI or the REST API. So my proposal would be, could we make this API token generation declarative, like make it in some manifest somewhere as a config map secret, and have it declarative so that we can generate it automatically for some process.
I'm not sure how that's possible because like you generate a secret value that you need to store in an external system.
Well, it's more
How do
to
you want
generate
to declaratively?
to generate it myself. For example, for the user password, what I do is that I'm using an external secret and I'm generating it and putting it in Argo CD secret, so that I can generate the password myself. But for the API token, it's not possible. You have to call the REST API and it does it for you, and and it creates also a session going with the API token. So it does two action: create the token and create a session. But yeah, when you want to automate it, it's a pain really. So it's an open question. Are there a strong opposition to make it declarative?
Okay.
This one.
Can you scroll down to the proposal, Leo? I don't.
There's no real implemented. I wanted to know first if there are really a strong argument against it to not make it declarative. Because it could be made in a config map that would trigger the creation of the session behind the scene. I think it's just triggering an action.
It's just where do you save that?
Yeah, that's my problem is I think we're gonna become a provider of like a bunch of outputs, which I don't love
Yeah.
Argo Speed taking ownership of.
You could generate a token, but then the goal is to have like to not have that token persisted in Argo. So the goal is to give that token to the user. Argo will validate that token, but Argo doesn't maintain that token and it doesn't have that token.
I think it would be easy enough to just do this outside of Argo CD. Like you could create your own system that uses the Kubernetes API to generate. I'm pretty sure those API tokens are just like
Yeah.
I talked about the Argo CD API tokens. Or are you talking about Kubernetes API token, the service
It's
tokens,
Argo CD1.
Argo CD token? You could still write a system that does that, right? Calls the Kubernetes APIs and keeps refreshing a token and writing it out somewhere.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I also like
It
that
just
idea.
Yeah, it
Doesn't
just because Argo CD, then if we do it in Argo CD, Argo CD becomes we have to end up people are going to want to save them in X different ways and places, and I feel that like we don't want to become a provider of outputs for API tokens.
Okay.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
you have another one? Is it related, Guillaume, or
No, this one are quite old ones that are already reviewed by some of you. So isn't Michael or well, some of you? Yeah, just needing to be merged. And the first one, for example, it's one that we discussed in another session, and and people are expecting it. So because we put it as an alternative to another issue that we didn't want to implement about matrix of matrices. And so yeah, some people are expecting it. So it would be nice to some of you if some of you can review it. It has been reviewed already, so by all the people in the list here. So just needing to go forward.
Okay, I personally I don't have the bandwidth to take a look at this one right now. Not sure if somebody else in the call. Maybe if you can provide some evidence of tests and if you have deployed this already in your servers and you see providing evidence of tests and in real world environment helps us in moving forward.
Yeah, but I try to cover everything in end-to-end test, and yeah,
It's
I can
all
provide,
covered by unit tests.
yeah, unit test and end-to-end test. So yeah.
And
I don't
have
know
you
if you want
tried
more
deploying
evidence on that.
this in your cluster internally?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but
Is
yeah,
it running?
it's running the same as it does, yeah, with the end-to-end test, basically. So yeah.
Okay, I'll just touch base with Michael about this one. It seems that he was involved in some of this review, and see how we can go from there. We
Yeah,
can ping
okay,
us directly
thanks.
on CMCF Slack as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
He is out of office this week, but he'll be back
Yeah.
next week. Just FYI.
Okay. Anything else, Guillaume, you want to bring up today?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. And we are on time. Andrew, if you have open issues, please move that up to the next topics. We can resume next week.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody, and see you next week.
Right. See
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.